Every morning, before the first office lights switch on and before millions of apartment doors open, New York City has already been awake for hours. Deep beneath sidewalks crowded with taxis and pedestrians, inside sealed tunnels, hidden chambers, and forgotten passageways, thousands of workers and countless automated systems have already begun performing the invisible tasks that keep one of the largest cities on Earth alive. Most people never think about them. They walk over them, drive above them, or sleep only a few feet away while an enormous network operates in complete silence. The skyline may define New York in photographs, but the real city exists underneath it, behind locked doors and below street level, where almost nobody is allowed to go. From above, Manhattan appears carefully organized. Streets form a familiar grid. Skyscrapers reflect the morning sun. Ferries cross the rivers, while trains arrive almost every minute. Everything appears effortless, almost automatic.
Yet every glass tower, every hospital, every subway station, every restaurant, and every apartment depends on systems that remain largely invisible. If even one of these hidden networks stopped functioning for only a few hours, millions of people would notice almost immediately. Water would stop reaching upper floors. Elevators would freeze. Traffic signals would fail. Waste would begin accumulating. Communication would slow. The city would not collapse overnight, but it would quickly reveal how fragile its daily routine actually is. What makes New York extraordinary is not simply its size. It is the fact that nearly 9 million people occupy a relatively small area while consuming enormous amounts of electricity, water, fuel, food, and information every single day. Every hour brings new demands. More than 5 million subway rides, thousands of emergency calls, millions of gallons of drinking water, and an uninterrupted flow of electricity must arrive precisely when needed.
None of this happens by accident. Behind every ordinary moment is an infrastructure built over more than a century, continuously upgraded while the city above never truly stops moving. The first hidden system begins far beyond the city itself. Every glass of water poured in Manhattan starts a journey that surprises many people. Unlike countless major cities around the world, New York does not depend primarily on nearby rivers running through its downtown. Instead, much of its drinking water travels from protected watersheds located dozens of miles north of the city. Rain and snow, collected across forests, reservoirs, and mountain valleys, begin a slow movement through an intricate network of aqueducts, tunnels, shafts, and pressure-controlled channels. Much of that journey happens entirely underground, hidden from public view. Gravity performs most of the work.
Instead of relying on massive pumping stations for every mile, engineers designed the system so elevation differences naturally move billions of gallons toward the city. Some tunnels descend hundreds of feet beneath rivers, mountains, and communities before gradually rising again toward New York. The water remains enclosed inside enormous concrete-lined passageways that many residents never realize exist beneath their feet. Once the water finally reaches the city limits, another invisible process begins. Distribution tunnels branch in multiple directions beneath boroughs, feeding storage facilities, pressure zones, and neighborhood pipelines. Large water mains disappear beneath avenues where thousands of vehicles pass overhead every hour. Fire hydrants, apartment buildings, hospitals, and office towers all connect to this enormous underground circulation system. Above ground, nothing seems unusual.
Underground, water is constantly moving through arteries. as essential as blood vessels inside a living body. But there is something even more surprising hidden below these water tunnels. Far beneath Manhattan lies another engineering project, so vast that only a limited number of people have ever seen significant portions of it firsthand. Unlike the subway, these tunnels were never built for transportation. They were constructed because city planners understood that the future population would eventually outgrow existing infrastructure. For decades, enormous tunnel boring machines slowly carved through solid bedrock hundreds of feet below the streets, creating spaces large enough for critical water supplies that future generations would one day depend upon. Some sections remained under construction for decades, hidden from public attention, while life continued normally above them.
Most New Yorkers have no idea that an entirely separate underground world continues expanding beneath the one they already know. Those deep tunnels are only one layer of a much larger hidden landscape. Directly above them, but still far below the streets, another network works every minute of every day with almost no public attention. Steam rises from countless orange and white stacks scattered across Manhattan, often becoming one of the city's most recognizable visual features. Many visitors assume these clouds come from subway ventilation or broken pipes. In reality, much of that steam belongs to one of the largest district steam systems in the world, a network that has quietly operated for well over a century. High-pressure steam travels through miles of underground pipes, delivering heat and energy to hospitals, universities, hotels, museums, office towers, and some of the city's most famous landmarks.
Instead of every building generating its own steam, centralized plants produce it before sending it beneath crowded avenues through insulated pipelines. Even during freezing winter mornings, when temperatures fall below freezing, this invisible network allows entire neighborhoods to remain warm without residents ever seeing the machinery responsible. Maintaining those pipes is an engineering challenge that never truly ends. Metal expands and contracts with enormous temperature differences. Underground moisture slowly attacks protective coatings. Construction projects constantly threaten buried infrastructure that may have been installed decades before nearby buildings even existed. Teams inspect valves hidden beneath steel access covers, monitor pressure from remote control centers, and replace aging components long before the public notices any problem. The goal is simple.
Repair should happen before failure, because once one critical section shuts down, the effects spread rapidly through surrounding buildings. The same philosophy governs another hidden system that most people never think about until something goes wrong. Electricity in New York does not simply arrive from a nearby power plant through a few overhead wires. In much of Manhattan, power flows through an underground electrical maze that has been expanded, rebuilt, and modernized continuously for generations. Thick transmission cables disappear into underground vaults, connected by maintenance tunnels and access chambers. Beneath busy intersections, workers may be standing inside concrete rooms, surrounded by equipment carrying enough electricity to power entire neighborhoods. Keeping this network stable requires constant balancing. Demand changes every hour. Early mornings begin quietly. Offices increase consumption after sunrise. Restaurants reach their peak around lunchtime.
Residential demand climbs again after sunset as millions return home, turn on lights, cook dinner, charge devices, and start air conditioning during summer heat waves. Sophisticated monitoring systems watch these fluctuations in real time, automatically rerouting electricity whenever maintenance or unexpected failures affect parts of the grid. From the sidewalk, nothing appears different. Underground, switches operate in milliseconds to prevent interruptions that many customers never realize almost occurred. Yet even the electrical system depends on something hidden beneath it. Thousands of underground utility vaults are constantly monitored because one small failure inside a confined space can quickly become a much larger problem. Sensors track temperature, pressure, and gas levels. Inspection crews investigate unusual readings before damaged insulation, leaking equipment, or accumulated gases create dangerous conditions.
When television cameras occasionally capture smoke emerging from a manhole cover, it is only a brief glimpse into an underground environment that most people never see. Below that opening may be cables, transformers, communication lines, steam pipes, fiber optics, drainage systems, and maintenance passages crossing within just a few feet of one another. But perhaps the most remarkable feature of New York's hidden infrastructure is not any single tunnel or utility line. It is the way dozens of independent systems occupy the same underground space without interfering with each other. Engineers often describe the city beneath Manhattan as another city entirely, one built in layers over more than 150 years. Every generation added something new while trying to avoid disrupting everything that already existed.
As a result, workers repairing a single water main today may find themselves operating only a short distance from century-old steam pipes, modern fiber optic cables, subway tunnels, electrical conduits, sewer interceptors, abandoned foundations, and infrastructure maps that still reveal structures built long before many of today's skyscrapers ever stood above them. The deeper experts explore this hidden world, the more they discover that the greatest challenge is no longer building new systems. It is understanding everything that is already there before digging even 1 foot deeper. While water, steam, and electricity form the foundation of New York's survival, none of those systems could function for long if another hidden network suddenly stopped moving. Every day, the city produces tens of thousands of tons of garbage.
Every apartment, restaurant, office building, construction site, and hospital contributes to an endless stream of waste that must disappear before the next morning begins. Unlike food deliveries or public transportation, this operation receives very little attention. Yet without it, New York would become almost unrecognizable in only a matter of days. The process begins long before garbage trucks appear on residential streets. Inside apartment buildings, maintenance workers transport refuse into compactors or collection rooms hidden in basements. Commercial buildings often rely on loading docks that remain active throughout the night, allowing sanitation crews to work while sidewalks stay relatively clear during business hours. Hospitals separate ordinary waste from hazardous materials under strict safety procedures, while restaurants manage enormous volumes of food waste that must be removed quickly to prevent health risks. Once garbage reaches the curb, an entirely different operation begins. The Department of Sanitation coordinates one of the largest municipal waste collection systems in the United States. Thousands of workers, hundreds of collection routes, specialized vehicles, maintenance depots, and transfer stations operate according to carefully planned schedules that change depending on neighborhoods, seasons, weather, and special events. Delays measured in hours can quickly affect thousands of city blocks. Most people assume garbage trucks simply drive to a landfill outside the city. In reality, the journey is far more complex. Much of New York's waste first arrives at transfer stations, located near rivers or industrial waterfronts. There, enormous cranes, conveyor systems, compactors, and sealed containers prepare garbage for transportation by barge, rail, or long-distance trucks.
Moving waste this way significantly reduces traffic on already congested streets, while allowing massive quantities to leave the city efficiently. Few residents ever witness these transfer facilities because many operate away from residential neighborhoods, hidden inside industrial districts where access is restricted. Inside, the scale is difficult to imagine. Heavy equipment continuously shifts mountains of refuse, while ventilation systems manage odors and airborne particles. Sophisticated drainage systems collect contaminated water before it reaches surrounding waterways. Every hour, thousands of tons move through buildings designed specifically to prevent a city of millions from becoming overwhelmed by its own waste. But even after garbage disappears, another hidden challenge begins immediately. Every drop of water that leaves sinks, showers, washing machines, factories, and storm drains, enters a completely different underground world.
The sewer system beneath New York stretches for thousands of miles, quietly carrying wastewater away from homes, while also managing rainfall that can transform streets into rivers within minutes. Much of this infrastructure dates back generations, yet it continues expanding and adapting as neighborhoods grow and weather patterns become increasingly unpredictable. Engineers divide these underground pathways into an enormous hierarchy. Small neighborhood pipes feed larger collector sewers. Those collectors eventually connect with massive interceptor tunnels capable of carrying astonishing volumes of wastewater toward treatment facilities located throughout the city's outer boroughs. Some tunnels are large enough for maintenance crews to walk through comfortably, while others resemble underground rivers flowing continuously beneath busy streets. The greatest challenge arrives during intense storms.
In older sections of the city, combined sewer systems carry both wastewater and rainwater through the same underground pipes. During heavy rainfall, those pipes can rapidly approach capacity. To reduce flooding, operators monitor weather forecasts, pump station performance, storage levels, and river conditions almost continuously. Decisions made hours before a storm arrives can determine whether neighborhoods remain functional or experience significant flooding. It is an invisible battle fought beneath the pavement, long before most residents even notice dark clouds forming over the skyline. Eventually, every gallon of wastewater reaches one of New York City's treatment plants, where another hidden transformation takes place. These facilities rarely appear in travel guides, yet they rank among the most important locations in the metropolitan area.
Without them, rivers surrounding the city would quickly become overwhelmed by untreated sewage, threatening public health, marine ecosystems, and the drinking water sources of neighboring communities. Behind security fences and industrial buildings, wastewater begins a carefully controlled journey that removes millions of pounds of contaminants every single day. The process starts with massive screens that capture large debris before it can damage machinery further downstream. Objects that should never have entered the sewer system are routinely removed, from plastic products and discarded clothing to construction materials and household save. Powerful pumps then move the remaining flow into settling tanks, where gravity once again becomes one of the most efficient engineering tools ever employed. Heavier particles sink to the bottom, while lighter materials rise to the surface, allowing mechanical equipment to separate different layers before biological treatment begins. The next stage depends not on machines alone, but on billions of microscopic organisms. Carefully managed bacterial communities consume dissolved organic matter that would otherwise pollute nearby waterways. Operators continuously monitor oxygen levels, temperature, chemical balance, and countless other variables to maintain ideal conditions for these living treatment systems. It is an invisible partnership between engineering and biology that repeats every hour of every day, regardless of holidays, weekends, or severe weather. Once treatment is complete, the cleaned water is tested repeatedly before being released into surrounding rivers and bays under strict environmental regulations. Meanwhile, the remaining solids undergo additional processing that reduces volume, eliminates harmful pathogens, and prepares material for transportation or beneficial reuse where permitted. Every stage is monitored through computerized control rooms filled with screens displaying flow rates, equipment performance, and laboratory measurements arriving from across the facility in real time. Yet these plants protect more than the rivers. Hidden throughout the city are enormous pumping stations that quietly defend entire neighborhoods from flooding. Many are designed to activate automatically whenever underground water levels begin rising. During powerful storms or exceptionally high tides, these facilities can move astonishing volumes of water every minute, preventing subway tunnels, streets, and low-lying districts from becoming submerged. Their engines may remain silent for weeks, but when extreme weather arrives, they suddenly become some of the most important machines in New York. Climate change has made this responsibility increasingly difficult.
Rising sea levels, stronger coastal storms, and more intense rainfall events have forced engineers to rethink infrastructure originally designed decades ago. Protective flood barriers, elevated electrical equipment, reinforced pump stations, and redesigned drainage systems have become part of a continuous effort to prepare the city for conditions that previous generations never expected to face. Following Hurricane Sandy in 2012, many critical facilities underwent extensive upgrades after floodwaters exposed vulnerabilities that had remained hidden for years. Still, one of the city's most vulnerable systems cannot simply be buried underground or protected behind reinforced concrete. Every second, millions of digital messages travel beneath New York through fiber optic cables that are rarely visible from the surface.
Banking transactions, emergency dispatches, financial markets, hospital records, mobile phone calls, internet traffic, and government communications all depend on this invisible nervous system. Some cable routes pass through utility corridors alongside water mains and electrical conduits. Others enter secure telecommunications facilities where countless strands of optical fiber connect New York with cities across North America, and even with underwater cables stretching beneath the Atlantic Ocean. Inside these data centers, redundancy is everything. Critical servers receive electricity from multiple independent sources, supported by battery arrays and backup generators capable of operating during prolonged outages. Cooling systems remove enormous amounts of heat generated by constantly operating equipment.
Security measures restrict access through multiple layers of authentication because interruptions measured in seconds could affect financial institutions, transportation systems, emergency responders, and businesses across the globe. To millions of people checking a phone, making a payment, or sending a message, everything appears instantaneous. Few realize that beneath the sidewalks lies another hidden city, one made not of concrete tunnels or steel pipes, but of light traveling through glass at extraordinary speed, silently connecting every essential system that keeps New York alive. For many people, the New York City subway is simply a way to get from one neighborhood to another. They see crowded platforms, arriving trains, and familiar station signs. What remains hidden is the enormous support system operating beyond the passenger areas.
Every moving train depends on a network of maintenance facilities, control centers, electrical substations, ventilation shafts, drainage pumps, signal equipment, and service tunnels that most riders will never encounter. The visible stations represent only a small fraction of a transportation system that extends deep beneath the streets and continues functioning around the clock. Each night, after the final rush hour crowds disappear, a different city comes alive underground. Maintenance crews spread across hundreds of miles of track, carrying specialized equipment designed for jobs that cannot be performed while trains are running at full capacity. Rails are inspected for microscopic cracks. Fasteners are tightened. Switches are lubricated and tested repeatedly. Sections of worn track are replaced within narrow maintenance windows that may last only a few hours before morning service begins again. Much of this work takes place inside tunnels that are more than a century old.
Some sections of the subway date back to the early 20th century, meaning today's engineers must integrate modern technology into infrastructure originally designed long before computers, digital communications, or automated monitoring existed. Every upgrade requires careful planning, because shutting down major subway lines affects millions of passengers. As a result, improvements often happen gradually, hidden behind construction barriers or completed overnight while the city sleeps. One of the least visible parts of the subway system is its signal network. Long before a train operator sees another train ahead, electronic systems have already calculated safe distances, monitored track occupancy, and communicated movement restrictions.
Older sections still rely on traditional signaling technology that has served the system for decades, while newer areas are being equipped with communications-based train control, or CBTC, allowing trains to operate more efficiently by continuously reporting their locations instead of depending solely on fixed signal blocks. None of this technology would matter if water were allowed to remain underground. Every day, groundwater naturally seeps into subway tunnels through tiny cracks in surrounding rock and concrete. Rainwater also finds countless paths into underground spaces through station entrances, ventilation grates, utility openings, and construction joints. Without constant intervention, many tunnels would gradually accumulate dangerous amounts of water. To prevent that from happening, hundreds of pumps operate throughout the subway network, quietly removing millions of gallons every day.
Most passengers never hear them because they work continuously behind walls, beneath platforms, or inside equipment rooms closed to the public. These pumping systems become especially important during heavy storms. Operators monitor water levels across the network, while emergency teams remain prepared to respond if flooding threatens critical locations. Following Hurricane Sandy, many stations and tunnels received additional flood protection, including reinforced entrances, deployable barriers, improved drainage systems, and upgraded pumping equipment designed to withstand increasingly severe weather events. Yet trains are not the only machines moving beneath New York. Hidden among the passenger tunnels are service passages used exclusively by maintenance workers, emergency responders, and utility personnel. Some connect stations that appear completely separate from the public perspective.
Others provide access to electrical rooms, ventilation facilities, communication equipment, or trackside infrastructure. Certain abandoned platforms and unused sections remain sealed behind locked gates, preserved as reminders of earlier subway designs or routes that were eventually replaced. While these forgotten spaces occasionally appear in historical photographs, access remains tightly restricted because many still sit beside active rail lines, carrying trains every few minutes. Above ground, commuters see only doors opening and closing with remarkable precision. Beneath their feet, thousands of employees, engineers, dispatchers, electricians, and maintenance specialists coordinate an operation where delays measured in seconds can ripple across an entire transportation network.
Yet even this vast underground system depends on another hidden layer that passengers almost never notice. A collection of control rooms where an uninterrupted stream of information determines the movement of nearly every train before it enters the next station. Those control rooms function as the brain of an infrastructure that never sleeps. Large digital displays continuously track the position of trains, electrical supply, equipment status, maintenance activity, weather conditions, and service disruptions across hundreds of miles of track. Dispatchers analyze an uninterrupted flow of information, making decisions that often prevent problems long before passengers become aware that anything unusual has happened. When a train experiences a mechanical issue, when emergency responders need access to a station, or when severe weather threatens operations, these centers coordinate dozens of independent teams within minutes.
Communication between field crews and control centers is constant. Track inspectors report damaged components. Electrical specialists isolate sections requiring maintenance. Signal technicians verify repairs before service resumes. Every decision follows carefully developed procedures because changing one element of the subway system often affects dozens of others. A delay on a single line during rush hour can influence train movements across multiple boroughs, requiring dispatchers to adjust schedules, reroute equipment, and manage passenger information almost simultaneously. Yet the subway is only one part of New York's transportation machine. Above ground, another invisible network quietly determines how millions of vehicles move through one of the busiest urban environments in the world. Traffic signals may appear simple, but many are connected to sophisticated management systems capable of adapting to changing traffic conditions throughout the day. Cameras, roadway sensors, timing plans, and communication links provide transportation engineers with real-time information about congestion, construction, accidents, and special events. Rather than functioning independently, intersections across major corridors often operate as coordinated systems designed to improve traffic flow over entire neighborhoods. During morning rush hour, signal timing differs significantly from midday operations. Evening commuter traffic requires another sequence entirely. Major sporting events, parades, road closures, or emergency situations can trigger temporary adjustments within minutes. Behind the scenes, transportation specialists monitor conditions from traffic management centers, where hundreds of intersections appear on digital maps, updated continuously throughout the day. The importance of these systems becomes especially clear when they fail.
A power outage affecting only a limited number of traffic signals can quickly produce congestion extending far beyond the original location. Emergency vehicles may experience delays. Bus schedules become unreliable. Delivery trucks lose valuable time. What appears to drivers as an isolated malfunction often creates ripple effects that spread through surrounding streets much faster than expected. But moving people is only half of the equation. Every day, New York must also receive an extraordinary volume of supplies simply to maintain ordinary life. Grocery stores, pharmacies, hospitals, restaurants, hotels, office buildings, and construction sites all depend on carefully coordinated logistics that begin far outside the city. Before dawn, distribution centers across neighboring states load trucks carrying fresh produce, dairy products, medicine, construction materials, fuel, and thousands of other essential goods.
Many deliveries are scheduled during overnight or early morning hours, specifically to reduce congestion before the busiest traffic begins. The Hunts Point Food Distribution Center in the Bronx illustrates the scale of this hidden operation. As one of the largest wholesale food distribution complexes in the world, it supplies an enormous portion of the fresh produce, meat, and seafood consumed throughout the metropolitan region. Long before restaurants open their doors or supermarkets arrange displays, countless shipments have already arrived, been inspected, sorted, purchased, and loaded onto smaller trucks heading toward neighborhoods across the 5 boroughs. Hospitals depend on similar precision. Medical supplies, pharmaceuticals, laboratory materials, oxygen, and specialized equipment arrive through dedicated supply chains designed to minimize interruption. Backup inventories exist, but many critical products move according to carefully timed schedules. Behind every emergency room treating patients at any hour stands an invisible logistics system, ensuring that life-saving equipment reaches the right location before it is needed. Perhaps the most remarkable aspect of New York is that these independent systems rarely operate in isolation. Transportation depends on electricity. Electricity depends on communication networks. Communication networks rely on backup power. Food deliveries depend on traffic management. Hospitals depend on water, fuel, digital infrastructure, and functioning roads simultaneously. Remove any one layer for long enough, and every other system begins feeling the strain. What appears to be a city of separate services is, in reality, a single interconnected machine whose hidden connections are far more complex than its famous skyline ever reveals. There is one final reality that separates New York from almost every other city on Earth. None of its hidden systems were designed to operate independently. Engineers often describe resilience not as the strength of a single network, but as the ability of dozens of different systems to continue supporting one another when something unexpected happens. Every day, countless emergency exercises, equipment inspections, software updates, infrastructure replacements, and contingency plans are carried out without attracting public attention. Their success is measured by something that never appears in headlines. Most of the time, nothing happens, because problems are solved before they become visible. Backup power provides one of the clearest examples. Hospitals, emergency communication centers, water treatment facilities, traffic management systems, airports, and major telecommunications hubs all maintain redundant electrical supplies. Many critical buildings contain large diesel generators capable of operating for extended periods if the primary electrical grid fails.
Automatic transfer switches detect interruptions within seconds, allowing essential equipment to continue operating with little or no interruption. Fuel contracts, maintenance schedules, and regular testing ensure that backup systems remain ready long before they are ever needed. Redundancy extends far beyond electricity. Water mains are designed with multiple connections, so service can often be maintained while repairs take place elsewhere. Communication providers install separate fiber routes to reduce the risk of a single cable failure interrupting essential services. Bridges and tunnels receive continuous structural monitoring, while transportation agencies prepare alternate routes that can be activated during accidents, maintenance projects, or emergencies. Even the city's emergency dispatch network includes multiple layers of communication designed to continue functioning under extraordinary conditions.
Behind these preparations stands another hidden workforce that rarely receives public recognition. Civil engineers, structural inspectors, electricians, utility operators, cybersecurity specialists, environmental scientists, emergency planners, mechanics, welders, and countless maintenance technicians spend their careers preventing failures that most residents never know almost occurred. Their work often begins before sunrise and continues overnight, precisely because infrastructure repairs must interfere as little as possible with daily life. Technology has also transformed how these hidden systems are managed. Thousands of sensors installed throughout the city continuously measure water pressure, electrical performance, air quality, structural movement, equipment temperature, traffic flow, and countless other conditions. Information from these devices travels to monitoring centers, where software identifies unusual patterns that may indicate developing problems.
Instead of waiting for equipment to fail completely, maintenance teams increasingly rely on predictive analysis that recommends repairs before breakdowns occur. A vibration slightly outside its normal range, or an unexpected temperature increase may trigger inspections long before visible damage appears. This approach is becoming increasingly important as much of New York's infrastructure continues to age. Some tunnels, bridges, water mains, and underground utilities remain in service decades after their original construction because they have been continuously maintained, reinforced, and modernized rather than completely replaced. Engineers often compare the process to performing surgery while a patient remains fully awake. Essential systems cannot simply be switched off for months at a time. Repairs must occur while millions of people continue using the city every hour of every day.
The greatest challenge may not be maintaining yesterday's infrastructure, but preparing it for tomorrow. Population growth, expanding digital demands, electric vehicles, renewable energy integration, stronger storms, rising sea levels, and evolving security threats all require continuous adaptation. Projects planned today are often designed with conditions decades into the future in mind, recognizing that infrastructure built now will likely serve generations who have not yet been born. That is the hidden truth beneath New York's skyline. The city's defining achievement is not its tallest buildings, its busiest streets, or its famous landmarks. It is the vast, invisible machine operating beneath, behind, and inside everything people see. Every glass tower, every illuminated street, every subway train, every hospital, every restaurant, every apartment, and every financial transaction depends upon thousands of interconnected systems, functioning with remarkable precision.
Most visitors leave New York remembering what stood above the ground. The people responsible for keeping the city alive spend their careers ensuring that the far more important world below it remains almost completely invisible. Perhaps the most remarkable characteristic of New York is that millions of people can live their entire lives without ever seeing the systems that make their routines possible. Every morning begins with clean water arriving under pressure, electricity flowing without interruption, trains arriving within minutes, traffic signals coordinating thousands of intersections, internet connections transferring unimaginable amounts of information, and sanitation crews quietly erasing the evidence of the previous day. These events appear ordinary only because the hidden infrastructure behind them performs with extraordinary consistency.
The moment even one of these systems begins to fail, people quickly discover how dependent every aspect of city life has become on machinery that usually remains completely invisible. Engineers often describe infrastructure as successful only when nobody notices it. In New York, that success is repeated millions of times every single day. Looking toward the future, the city is entering one of the most ambitious periods of infrastructure modernization in its history. Aging water mains are being replaced before failures occur. New signal systems continue expanding across subway lines. Coastal protection projects are being developed to reduce flood risks associated with stronger storms and rising sea levels. Electric vehicle charging infrastructure is steadily increasing. Renewable energy transmission projects are being planned to deliver cleaner electricity into one of the world's largest urban centers.
These improvements rarely attract the attention given to skyscrapers or major architectural landmarks because much of the work happens underground, inside utility corridors, beneath streets, or within industrial facilities that remain inaccessible to the public. Yet these investments may ultimately have a greater influence on New York's future than any new building added to its skyline. Even artificial intelligence is beginning to influence the city's hidden operations. Machine learning systems analyze traffic patterns, identify unusual equipment behavior, predict maintenance requirements, and optimize energy consumption across complex facilities. Instead of responding only after something breaks, infrastructure managers increasingly rely on software capable of recognizing subtle warning signs days or even weeks before human operators would normally notice them.
Tiny pressure changes inside pipelines, abnormal electrical loads, unusual vibrations in rotating equipment, or small shifts in bridge sensors can automatically generate maintenance requests, allowing technicians to intervene before disruptions spread through the network. But despite every technological advancement, one factor remains impossible to automate completely. Human experience continues to guide nearly every critical decision. Veteran subway inspectors recognize sounds that instruments may not immediately classify. Water system operators understand seasonal behavior developed through decades of observation. Electric grid controllers evaluate rapidly changing situations where experience becomes just as valuable as computer models. Emergency coordinators train continuously because unexpected situations rarely follow perfect scenarios. Technology provides information, but people remain responsible for interpreting it under pressure.
In many ways, New York is less like a collection of buildings than a living organism. Water functions as its bloodstream, electrical cables resemble a nervous system, transportation corridors serve as muscles carrying millions of people every day. Digital communication moves information as rapidly as nerve signals. Waste removal acts as an immune system, protecting public health. Every individual component depends upon the health of every other component. The city survives because these systems operate together with astonishing precision, despite serving more than 8 million residents and millions of additional commuters and visitors every year. The next time someone stands in Times Square, crosses the Brooklyn Bridge, rides the subway beneath Manhattan, or simply turns on a faucet inside an apartment, they are witnessing only the visible surface of New York. Beneath every street lies a second city, built from tunnels, pipes, cables, pumps, valves, sensors, control rooms, reservoirs, treatment facilities, substations, maintenance depots, and thousands of dedicated professionals whose work rarely appears on postcards or travel brochures. That hidden city has no famous skyline, yet without it, The New York the world recognizes could not exist for a single day.